As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party. So, this is a weird play, right? He spent an entire year desperately trying to keep these files from getting released. What has he done? He's lied about them nonstop, attacked people for mentioning them, attacked fellow representatives, the fellow Republicans, representatives, attacking journalists who bring it up, getting actually pretty mad when it's brought up. He had Mike Johnson hold the House closed and refuse to bring in Grijalva, swear her in as a representative because she would have been the final vote. They had a meeting in the White House Situation Room to try to bully. I'm blanking on her name. I'm so sorry. Come on, you know. Why am I thinking Joe Boebert? What's her first name? Lauren Boebert. Jesus Christ. Lauren Boebert. Joe Boebert. Maybe that's her husband or boyfriend. I don't know. Lauren Boebert, to try to bully her into rescinding her her sign on the release. So we know for a fact that he authentically wanted these files to not be released. And now it seems he's comfortable with them being released. This can point to one of three things, right? Either the files have been changed, his understanding of the files have been changed, or he has been told that this is inevitable and he needs to take a different rhetorical direction. I think it's only one of those three. Either an edit to the files, he's been given information that makes him more comfortable with the release of the files. I think that's the least likely option, by the way. I don't think he has access to any new information. And the third one being, we need a new optical strategy because this shit's happening one way or another. You know? How could they edit it? We don't know what the Epstein files actually are. I said this earlier, but I'll repeat it because it is important. All of the information that's been released on Epstein thus far that we have access to are emails and evidence that were collected as part of criminal cases that were brought against Jeffrey Epstein in the past. It was held as evidence collected by the Epstein estate, used in previous court cases. The reason this information wasn't made public was because it potentially incriminated or at least involved other people. So the files were sealed, and only now are they being released. But this information was collected years ago. As to what the Epstein files actually are, in all likelihood, if there are Epstein files, I mean, like if there is a distinct collection of information that people refer to as the Epstein files, it's probably evidence that was collected from Epstein's estates post-mortem. After his death, after all, he died in prison, right? He was of interest to the courts. The FBI probably swept over. There's no way that the FBI was not collecting evidence from a guy with that many skeletons in his closet, you know? Can you imagine they just leave Little St. James like that? You know? Like they're just like, we're not going to touch it. Just leave all that shit, all the recordings, everything there. Probably not, no. They swept it up. You know, they got what they could. They put it in a big bag, and it's sitting somewhere in Fort Knox. I don't know. That's my guess on what the Epstein files are, in which case they would almost certainly implicate Trump. Bloomberg says that 1,000 FBI agents redacted names on 100,000 files. Is this about the Epstein files? Or is this about the emails that have been held by the Epstein estate? Because people have used these terms interchangeably, or they've referred to them interchangeably, and I don't know what they mean exactly. We know from news reports Trump's name was in the Epstein files. What hasn't been reported is that an FBI FOIA team redacted Trump's name and the name of other prominent public figures from the documents. If this was done by the FBI, they're probably referring to the actual files and not the emails, because the emails that were released by the House Oversight Committee were held by the Epstein estate, not by the FBI. So if they actually went through the documents and did all these redactions, that's not going to make Trump look good when they're released, right? Like, if they go ahead and release this and all the names are fucking redacted, people are just going to say every single redacted name is Trump. Okay, here. I want to know. I want to clarify what exactly they mean when they say Trump's name was blacked out. Mountain of material accumulated by the FBI over nearly 2 decades, including grand jury testimony, prosecutors' case files, as well as tens of thousands of pages of the Bureau's own investigative files on Epstein. Over 1,000 FBI agents, 100,000 documents. They censored Trump's name. Okay. I do not know what files they're referring to here. I don't know if they're referring to files that were obtained pre or post Epstein's death. I have no clue. Do you think they could just omit entire pages? Sure. There are many ways they could fuck with the release of these files, but I don't think it would go over well for them. Because any edits they make, any alterations, any redactions, whatever, are only going to fuel further conspiracy. You know? I came from YouTube chat. I'm at work. I think you're wrong. Don't get fired now. Near the same time, he asked Bondi to open an investigation into Bill Clinton and Epstein's relationship. They're going to redact all the files that are a part of this active investigation in order to cover Trump or any other powerful person that wants not to be named. I think that if that is the play they attempt to make, it will not work even a little bit. That's so transparent. Again, this isn't about getting Trump arrested. It's about PR. Nothing is going to lead to Trump being arrested. They could release a 4K video of him fucking a toddler. It wouldn't make a difference. He's the president. The law is broken. He's not getting arrested. Okay? This is all about PR. So if they release the files and Trump goes, "Oh yeah, sorry, we couldn't release all of them because we're investigating the Democrat," like it's just going to continue the conspiracy, right? You know what I'm talking about? Unfortunately, I don't have a Wall Street Journal account, but these are the files, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I don't know if they're referring to the same block of files. Sorry, I know I keep repeating that, but it's really frustrating because there are lots and lots of like lowercase Epstein files. You know what I mean? There's lots and lots and lots of them out there. So the question is like, what's the block that Trump has been afraid of seeing released? It will be another in 2 weeks thing forever. Fuck it, good. Dude, this shit's been horrible for him. The Epstein panic, the continuing conspiracy, all of it, it's been fucking terrible for him. Everyone, including a majority of Republicans, thinks he's handling it terribly. If he keeps blustering his way through this over and over and over and over and over again, giving people, new insights, or because journalists are still going to ask him and he's going to get mad every time they do, it's going to keep going all the way to 2028 or for however long he has, The DOJ has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein. This is not true. The House Oversight Committee procured this information. The DOJ has not been the one providing this information. The only thing the DOJ has provided has been like a bunch of highly censored documents, the uncensored versions of which were already released. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on the point, which is the economy, affordability, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level. This, to me, is the evidence that Trump doesn't have any big turnabout with these files, and he's really just hoping that he can stall everyone out, You release the files partially, you release them with censorship, with edits, you omit some documents, and then you go, come on, you're still talking about it when I'm right in the middle of delivering my big affordability agenda? Like, if he had a big turnabout here, something devastating to others, I think he would be crowing about this a little more, He'd be playing it up. Could the Supreme Court get involved? They have nothing to do with this. The gambit is to slow walk it. I think it is, which means that this is just going to keep dragging behind him forever, which honestly, really, really funny. MSNBC has so many video segments speculating why Trump has changed his mind on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's more. There's more. I know there's more. 5.
20 past the hour. We're going to get to the latest on the Epstein files right now. But first, just to put a pin in the conversation we were just having, we had the reporter on from the New York Times a while back. This extensive investigation into the conditions at CICOT, the prison in El Salvador, where all these people were just disappeared off the street, chained, shaved, and sent there. And that report found that half of those people had not committed any crimes. And the stories of torture, lunatics. This change of course from the president comes ahead of tomorrow's expected vote on the House floor, aimed at forcing the Justice Department to release all of the files. To become law, it would still need to pass in the Senate and be signed by President Trump himself. This turnaround from Trump notably follows a failed pressure campaign to sway Republican lawmakers against pursuing the release of the files. Now, earlier yesterday, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky signaled there was growing support for the measure among the GOP in the House.
I think we could have a deluge of Republicans. There could be 100 or more. I'm hoping to get a veto.
The other big possibility really is that Trump has basically been informed that this is inevitable, but hey, King, you've gotten over other stuff, right? Like, you've managed to survive plenty of other political scandals. Maybe by changing his mind on this, he's trying to push back a little bit against the overwhelming tide of Republicans that are going to vote in favor of it. Hopefully, ideally, like he's trying to survive. He's trying to roll with the wave rather than make it like a big hill to die on.
Veto-proof majority on
the vote tomorrow.
This legislation when it comes up for a vote. I am winning this week with Ro Khanna. We're forcing this vote, and it's going to happen. I would remind my Republican colleagues who are deciding how to vote, Donald Trump can protect you in red districts right now by giving you an endorsement, but in 2030, he's not going to be the president, and you will have voted to protect pedophiles if you don't vote to release these files, and the president can't protect you then. This vote, the record of this vote, will last longer than Donald Trump's presidency.
And there's no way Republicans could have voted no on this. There's so many Republicans that would have found themselves on the wrong side of their MAGA base, let alone everybody else. And, you know, we'd said last week, everybody that was saying, oh, there's dead in the Senate. Really? Now, if you're up for election in 2026, Donald Trump had to know they're not going to want to vote against this. Like, are they really going to cover up releasing files about a predator?
This was not President Trump having a change of heart because he thinks differently. This was him facing political reality. He was going to lose. He was going to get rolled on this. And we were hearing over the weekend.
Has that happened?
Not this term.
This term?
No, this will be the first time there's an act of defiance. And let's remember, last week, the White House and the president himself tried furiously to change.
Will Fetterman vote against it? There's a very real chance that he does. Because of, I don't know, fucking Israel or something.
Change the minds of the 4 Republican voters they knew were going to vote yes to release this, you know, who did last week. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Laura Boebert, and the rest, including Congressman Massey there. They were unsuccessful. And they then recognized that over the weekend it was picking up steam. And I think the congressman is right. That this was going to be a deluge. Now that the yes was going to happen, all these Republicans suddenly had the freedom to also jump on board, vote yes. And Trump was going to look really weak, beaten by his own party like this. So that's why the sudden about face last night after his return from Mar-a-Lago this weekend.
And Jim Van de Hei, this follows up on what you wrote about yesterday, and that is this MAGA split. And the fact that it's quite significant, whether you're talking about the Epstein files, whether you're talking about Gaza, whether you're talking about, again, really surprisingly last week, Donald Trump saying, yeah, we need foreign workers. We got to have foreign workers. I mean, the split was wide and growing. And then, of course, the Tucker Carlson dust up, also splitting the MAGA movement in half.
Yeah, I mean, 6 months ago, if you thought about MAGA, it was by far and away the most ascendant, powerful part of the media ecosystem. And it really is a metastasizing hot mess right now. Almost all the leading figures.
It can never, ever, ever work in the long run because you cannot simultaneously govern, but also lead this movement of retards around with the jangling keys. You can't do both. You can't aura farm for anti-empirical populists while also running a government. It's just not possible. The things you need to do to run the government and get the good outcomes that people are looking for are the exact opposite. You can't have both. Even if from the corpse of the MAGA movement, a new double MAGA movement emerges, where they say that, Trump was Jewish and we need Nick Fuentes as president or whatever, the same thing would happen. It would happen right over again.
In MAGA that have big followings on YouTube, podcasts, online, are at war with each other. They're at war over things like anti-Semitism, nativism, misogynism, racism. They're trying to play out their rivalries in public. They're trying to bury their enemies within MAGA. And you're starting to see real substantive splits with Donald Trump. And where this matters, it really is over America First purity. There are a lot of activists who love Donald Trump who think it's crazy that we spend this much time bombing ships on the shores of Venezuela when you have prices going up for working class Americans. And remember, Trump won as the champion of that working class. The truth is he's a creature of the upperest of the upper class, right? He loves to hang out with moguls and rich people and CEOs and gild the office and take his golden bar from the Swiss as they try to get their tariffs lowered. And this is starting to cause real angst. And it might not topple Trump.
The split started back with Jan 6. Arguably, Charlottesville is the true origin. I think Charlottesville is actually a pretty good point to trace it to, because Charlottesville was like the line between regular Republicans and the freaks who are like, yes, finally, Trump's in power, white power, yeah. And Trump responded by half and halving it. He didn't decisively favor the Nazis there, but he also didn't really condemn them, which means that this Frankenstein movement continued. Regular conservatives who are racist and so on, sure, but for the most part, they just want the country to operate well, good jobs, economy, whatever, and the freaks who are out here exclusively to see minorities suffer. And because he was unable to make a choice there or to stamp down on the Charlottesville Nazis, they've persisted. And they continue to persist because they're his loudest loyalists. They're his sycophants. And now we've reached a point where you've run out of regular Republicans. There are no longer any regular people in government, In the cabinet, none were appointed. And in Congress, they've all been basically bullied into being these like vice signaling freaks, because otherwise they'd be, targeted by Trump on social media. They'd lose their seat in re-election. That's all they've got.
The Epstein thing, it's one of the, how could you possibly be against voting for it, right? Like sometimes these things you can squint and you can understand both sides. On this one, you can't. You're going to be You're going to be for pedophiles and anti-sex trafficking and sexual exploitation of women and young women. That's kind of a nutty place to be in American politics or morally.
I mean, look at these 4 bullet points right here, Jonathan Lemire. If you get, let's find the 2 most MAGA-ish people out there, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon. Mm-hmm. Every one of these things, they want the Epstein files released. They have said it from the very beginning. Bannon and Marjorie Taylor Greene has said, no, we need Americans filling high-skilled foreign worker jobs. This is what Steve Bannon went to war with Elon Musk about months ago. Donald Trump now is taking the anti-MAGA position on that, threatening military interventions in Venezuela and now Nigeria. People's heads have to be spinning. The whole Fortress America, America First, after, of course, everything that's happened with Israel in Gaza. And then
wait, Nigeria? Yes, Trump threatened to invade Nigeria or whatever. It lasted for like 2 days because he got shown a video. That was it.
Denying that there's an affordability crisis, which is hitting a lot of people in red state America the hardest.
Yeah, this is the first moment where it feels like Republicans, and particularly those in the MAGA movement, are starting to look past Donald Trump. They're trying to say, like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What comes next? Who's going to be the heir to this obviously extraordinarily powerful political base here? That, like, we're seeing some jockeying. I mean, what does MAGA really mean? And you're right. There's the Marjorie Taylor Greene and Steve Bannon side. We see J.D. Vance trying to quietly make some moves as well. We have others who are trying to come on the other side of it. Like, the Republicans are starting to look at each other and say, this is going to be a little different? How do we embrace it? And right now, we keep saying the first 6, 7, 8 months of the president's term, Republicans largely in lockstep. But here, because he has gone against sort of the MAGA creed in many ways, we're seeing some in the Republican Party feel like I have a little freedom to disagree.
Right.
And so far, they haven't really paid a price.
Well, you look at Thomas Massey, he hasn't paid a price. We'll see what happens with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I doubt she'll pay a price. I mean, there's always the argument, if you go after Republican presidents from the right, you're safe. Here, these people that are going after Donald Trump are going after him, you know, from the more MAGA-ish base.
Right.
It's not like they're saying, hey, you should actually pay attention to what Jesus says on immigration. No, they're not doing that. They're saying release the Epstein files and stop talking about going to war in Venezuela or Nigeria.
It's actually not a bad segment, you know? It's pretty decent by Morning Joe standards. In Ohio, the Dems have been blasting Vivek Ramaswamy's old clip of him saying Americans are lazy and anti-GOP. Yeah. I saw that. He was decent with Mamdani too. No, he was 100%. Yeah, Morning Joe they got struck by a lightning bolt or something. I don't know. Take what you can get. You know, you take what you can get. Morning woke. I'm trying to find that clip that I saw recently from Vivek where they were playing that ad because I saw that. I can't find it. No, I can't find it. I'm not going to find it either. No shot. No. Well, whatever the case may be, I don't know. The best case scenario for us is that Trump has no real plan. No one around Trump has any real plan. And the writing is on the wall, and he just wants to do something, anything, to ingratiate himself to the growing Republican base, largely far-right base, that's interested in seeing the Epstein files released, you know? And he just has no plan. He's just hoping it works out. He also takes direction pretty readily from the people around him, right? I mean, he's pretty pliable, so maybe somebody doesn't have his best interest at heart. No clue. No clue. Conspiracy theory, Bannon and others have relied on the Epstein files this whole time to oust Trump. I said that I thought Marjorie Taylor Greene might be getting coached in her recent interviews, and I maintain, I think right now everyone sees the writing on the wall with Trump. Historic unpopularity. He's not doing anything to bring that shit back. You know, everything is just crumbling. I think that the powers that be are looking to replace him. But it looks like the way things are going, they're not looking to replace him with a neocon. They're looking to replace him with some kind of, like, true MAGA movement, which is doomed to the same fate, you know? Basically, all of the 115 IQ neo-Nazis are looking with contempt on the 90 IQ neo-Nazis running Trump's admin right now, and they're thinking, I could do a better job than that. Let's get this fat pedophile out of the way so I can take a run at it. I guarantee you Steve Bannon is thinking that. Guarantee you 100% he's thinking that.